Hello and welcome to Data Velocity Business Bites. I'm Melissa Minchala, CEO here at Data Velocity. It's October and it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and what a better time to share a little wisdom, if not spread a little fear on the boogeyman that's out to get you, or your data anyway. While there are many out there and they keep mutating and regenerating in all manner of terrifying multiplications, I want to focus on three of the lesser known yet very dangerous threats out there. The first nightmare is DNS hijacking. DNS, or domain name system, can be considered the phone book of the internet. It's how your computer knows what you're looking for when you type in YouTube, for example. It will search for the name to find the corresponding IP and take you there. A DNS hijacking attack alters a computer's settings to either use a DNS server controlled by hackers or ignore DNS altogether. In this way, the attackers gain control over your browsing and redirect you to fraudulent sites. Normally, the sites are expertly set up to look like login pages for banks or other important online services, when in fact they are fake and are being used to steal your credentials. The next boogeyman is the fake antivirus. This one is pretty common, which speaks to its efficacy. With this threat in effect, the fake antivirus malware will report that the computer has a slew of non-existent threats in an attempt to scare the user into paying for unnecessary product registrations or cleanups, or install another malicious software promising to clean the computer. Often, a phone number will appear on the screen as the computer screeches to heighten a sense of urgency. Lastly, a threat that can cost you tens of thousands in one shot: spear phishing. Spear phishing is laser-targeted phishing, using spoofed emails to influence users within an organization to divulge sensitive information or credentials. Unlike phishing, which is the execution of a mass email of random individuals, spear phishing is well-targeted and focused to a small select group, where the target is a single organization. The spoofed emails are created to appear as if they are from another staff member at the same organization or from a trusted vendor. They can be used to ask to confirm usernames or passwords, or even to initiate a transfer of funds to a supposed vendor. All of these are serious threats that can cause confusion, compromise, and cost businesses a great deal. Each one has a method to protect against it, but what they have in common is that they each require acknowledgement. Unlike the boogeyman of your childhood, these really do exist, and pulling the covers over your head aren't going to protect you. Up next, we'll talk to Adam Warshaw, CIO of Data Velocity, about some of the ways to protect your business from threats that are ever evolving. Welcome back, and welcome to Adam Warshaw. I know that you have more than 25 years of working in IT in a broad spectrum of industries, from large international financial firms to small New York City PR firms. I'd like to ask you some questions on network security and cyber protection. So, what do you feel has caused the most detrimental threat to small businesses in your experience?
I think for the small businesses, one of the biggest things that they overlook is a proper backup plan. The backup plan protects them from human error, but it also protects them from the more complex attacks like the ransomware.
Okay. Interesting. Ransomware can be very, very dangerous and can cost the business a substantial amount, if not their entire business. What is the difference in data security between large enterprises and small businesses?
Well, ultimately, regardless of the size, you're going to have best practices. But the culture within a large organization is going to be different than that within the small and mid-sized business. And so it becomes a trade-off for what is going to be of value to that company versus what's going to disrupt the culture they want to project.
Okay. And I think culture is very, very important, because sometimes you may be making a negotiation between culture and security, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you may have to make the allowances more for the security and may have to give some things up in your culture.
Absolutely. In the larger companies, you're going to have a very strict password rotation policy. You're going to have it where the servers are fully implementing what the company wants. Versus in a small business, you start out where people are wearing multiple hats. And with those multiple hats, you're actually going to have it where under some circumstances, they're still sharing one account for something as a role.
Okay.
As they evolve, they're going to grow out and they're going to start having where they need to rotate the passwords, have individual accounts.
Okay. Is there a best practice small businesses should adopt from larger enterprises, and why?
Well, right off the bat, everybody needs to have the basics, like an enterprise-grade firewall. That's keeping the bouncer, right? You don't want people coming into the door that are unexpected. You also have to have antivirus protection so that you know that each of the devices within the network are being scanned and protected. It just becomes a question of where do you go for the sophistication level. For example, in the larger enterprises, you're going to have a much more complex two-factor or more authentication policy for remote access. That's where you have a known password and you're going to have some sort of a token or a validation to a device in your control. Versus in a smaller company, you might just have things at a single point where you're going through with the password.
Okay. Is there a security practice that small businesses do not necessarily need to worry about?
Well, for the small businesses, you're not going to get into carrying personal devices that synchronize with the atomic clock and rotation. You're not going to necessarily have as many diversified passwords for each discrete system. You're going to still be able to use single passwords for authenticating into more of your environment. But you're going to have the building blocks so that as the business grows or as it gets more sophisticated, you can build on it and activate the functionality.
All right. So in other words, start with what makes sense for your business. You don't necessarily need the entire kit. Maybe just start with a few pieces, something that makes sense for your specific environment, and then from there, grow with what you evolve into.
Right, and that's where it gets important that you plan for the future, not that you buy what you're going to need, but that you're having something that you can ramp up with, because you don't want to invest into an infrastructure that you're going to have to throw away 2 years later because it can't expand with you.
Very good point. So how can small businesses best protect themselves from things that are always changing?
Well, usually when a business starts out, you have somebody that's a little more technical and they advise you, and that's what you really need. You need to have somebody that's advising you. So at day one, that friend was okay, but then as you're a real business, you have to have your IT guy or girl, whoever's doing the actual support. That's going to grow into the point where you actually have to have an IT company. And that's where a company like Data Velocity fits into the niche of giving support to the businesses. They don't have to learn about the technology. They talk to the professionals that advise them. And based on the business goals, we're able to direct where the technology needs to be.
Right. So make sure you have an expert advising you, someone on board that can really guide you with that interest in mind.
You have to. You have to focus on your business and keep on task.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you for joining us today. Now remember, if you have any questions on this topic or any other, please send us those questions at info@datavelocity.com, and we'll make sure to answer them right here. Enjoy the rest of your day.